Lana's eyes snapped open to blinding white light. Her head pounded. Her body ached in places she didn't want to think about. The silk sheets beneath her were unfamiliar, expensive, cold. She tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through her core, sharp and violating. She looked down. She was naked. Completely naked. Her dress, the pretty red one Somi had lent her for the club last night, lay torn on the marble floor like discarded trash. Where was she? What happened? The memories came in fractured pieces. Taesung's smile. The drink he handed her. His lips on her ear saying something she couldn't quite remember. Then darkness. Just darkness, and now this. The door slammed open. Lana grabbed the sheet to her chest, heart hammering. A man walked in, tall, devastatingly handsome in an expensive black suit, his dark hair perfectly styled. His eyes were cold, empty, like looking into a frozen lake. He barely glanced at her as he crossed to the nightstand and picked up a stack of cash. "Time to go," he said, his voice flat and businesslike. What happened?" Lana's voice cracked. "Where am I? Who are you?" He turned to her then, and something flickered in those cold eyes. Amusement maybe. Or contempt. He walked toward the bed and, without warning, threw the cash at her. Bills scattered across her bare shoulders, her lap, her face. Some fluttered to the floor. "Payment for services rendered," he said. "You were sweet. Now get out of my penthouse." Lana stared at the money, at him, trying to understand. Services rendered? No, this couldn't be real. I didn't. She couldn't finish the sentence. Her throat closed up. "Your boyfriend already collected his share," the man continued, adjusting his cufflinks like this was just another morning. 2,000,000 won. Quite the bargain for a virgin, wouldn't you say? The word hit her like a slap. Virgin. Past tense. She looked down at her thighs and saw the dried blood. Her stomach lurched. "Taesung," she whispered. "Taesung did this? Business transaction. Nothing personal." He headed for the door. "My driver will take you wherever you need to go. Use the service elevator. I have a reputation to maintain. Wait, please, I need to understand what." He turned back one last time, his face carved from ice. "You enjoyed it. That's all you need to know. Now leave before I have security remove you." The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded like a coffin lid. Lana sat there, trembling, surrounded by cash that felt like poison on her skin. She didn't remember anything. Not a single moment of whatever he claimed happened. All she remembered was Taesung's smile and that drink, and then waking up here, broken and bleeding and thrown away like she was nothing. She forced herself to move. Every muscle screamed. She found her torn dress, pulled it on even though it barely covered her. The money stayed on the bed. She wouldn't touch it. Wouldn't take a single bill. She stumbled to the door, down a hallway that smelled of expensive cologne and leather, and found the service elevator. The security guard inside wouldn't meet her eyes. The ride down felt endless. When the doors opened to the underground garage, she ran. Past the luxury cars, past the shocked faces of staff, out into the soul morning air that felt too bright, too normal, too wrong. She kept running until her legs gave out 3 blocks away. She collapsed against a convenience store wall and finally let herself cry. Her phone. She needed her phone. She patted her dress and found it miraculously still in the pocket, screen cracked but working. With shaking hands, she called the only person she trusted. "Somi," she sobbed when her best friend answered. "Somi, please, I need you." 30 minutes later, Somi burst through the door of her tiny apartment where Lana sat wrapped in a blanket on the bathroom floor. Somi took one look at her, at the torn dress, at the blood, and her face transformed from concern to pure rage. "Who?" Somi demanded, kneeling beside her. "Who did this to you?" "I don't know his name," Lana whispered. "But Taesung." "Somi, Taesung sold me. He drugged me and sold me." The words hung in the air like smoke. Somi's hands clenched into fists. "We're going to the hospital right now," Somi said, her voice deadly calm. "And then we're going to the police. And then I'm going to kill him myself." The hospital waiting room was too cold, too bright. Somi argued with the intake nurse about priority, while Lana sat in a plastic chair trying to disappear into herself. She stared at the floor tiles, counting them, anything to not think about what happened. About what she couldn't remember. "Miss Okoro?" A young doctor approached, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "We can see you now." As they walked down the corridor, Lana noticed a commotion ahead. Hospital staff parted like water as a man in an expensive suit strode through, flanked by bodyguard. Her breath caught. It was him, the man from the penthouse. His cold eyes swept the corridor and landed on her. Time stopped. Recognition flashed across his face. Then annoyance. He kept walking as if she was beneath his notice. But Somi had seen him. Seen the way Lana froze. "That's him." Somi's voice was low, dangerous. Before Lana could answer, Somi was moving. She cut across the corridor, planting herself directly in his path. The bodyguards moved to intercept, but she was faster. "You," Somi spat at him. "You're the piece of garbage who used my friend and threw her away like trash." The man, Ryo-han as his nameplate identified him, stopped. His expression didn't change. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Move." "Lana Okoro. This morning. Your penthouse. Ring any bells, or do you rape so many women you can't keep track?" Something flickered in his eyes. He looked past Somi to where Lana stood frozen against the wall. She was compensated fairly for her time. "Now if you'll excuse me." "Compensated?" Somi's voice rose. She was drugged. She was a virgin. She was sold by her boyfriend. And you just used her and tossed money at her like she was some prostitute. Now the entire corridor was staring. Rio's jaw tightened. For a moment, just a moment, something that might have been shame crossed his face. But then it was gone, replaced by that same cold indifference. "Hospital security," he said calmly to one of his bodyguards. "Have these women removed." "You're a monster," Somi said. But she let Lana pull her away before security arrived. In the examination room, the doctor was gentle. Too gentle. It made Lana want to scream. She answered questions mechanically. Yes, she was in pain. No, she didn't consent. No, she didn't remember. Yes, she wanted a rape kit done. The words felt foreign in her mouth. Meanwhile, down the hall in Dr. Myung-soo's private office, Ryo sat across from his fertility specialist, mind elsewhere. "Your test results are unchanged," Dr. Myung-soo said, reviewing charts. "Your sperm count remains critically low. Natural conception is near impossible. Less than 1% chance." "Good," Ryo said. But his mind kept replaying the scene in the corridor. The friend's words. Virgin. Drugged. Sold. He'd assumed she was a professional. The agency had sent her. They wouldn't send someone unwilling. Would they? "Sir." The doctor looked concerned. "You seem distracted." "The woman this morning," Ryo said slowly. "Was there blood on the sheets?" Dr. Myung-soo blinked at the change in subject. I wouldn't know." "Why?" Ryo stood abruptly. He needed to check. Needed to know if what the friend said was true. If he'd made a terrible mistake. But even as the thought formed, he pushed it away. It didn't matter. Business was business. People made choices. She'd been in his bed. That was enough. Still, as he left the hospital, he couldn't shake the image of her face in the corridor. The fear in her eyes. The way she'd looked at him like he was a monster. The next day, Lana sat on Somi's couch, staring at nothing. Her phone buzzed. Taesung's name flashed on the screen. Her finger hovered over the decline button, but something made her answer. "Baby, where are you?" Taesung's voice was smooth as silk, concerned. "I've been worried. You left the club without me. You drugged me," Lana said. Her voice sounded dead even to her own ears. Silence on the other end. Then a sigh. "Come on, Lana, don't be dramatic. You had a good time. Got paid. What's the problem? What's the problem?" Her voice cracked. "You sold me, Taesung. You sold my virginity to some stranger." Sold is such an ugly word. She could hear the smile in his voice. "I provided an opportunity. You needed money for school. He needed entertainment. Everyone wins." "I loved you," she whispered. "And I needed cash," he said simply. "Listen, you should be grateful." Someone like you, a foreign student with no connections? You're lucky someone like Rio Han was even interested. Most men don't pay that much for one night. The phone fell from her hand. Somi picked it up, and what she said next made Lana grateful she couldn't hear the details. When Somi hung up, her face was murderous. Get dressed, Somi said. We're going to his apartment. Somi, no. He doesn't get to do this and walk away. He doesn't get to sell you and act like it's nothing. Somi's voice shook with rage. Get dressed. Now. They found Taesung in his apartment playing video games, beer on the coffee table, completely at ease. He looked up when they entered, using the spare key Lana had kept. Lana. And you brought the angry friend. How fun. He paused his game. Come to thank me? That money's going to last you months. I didn't take the money, Lana said quietly. Then you're stupider than I thought. What happened next was a blur. Somi moved first, shoving him back into the couch. Lana followed, all the rage and pain and violation pouring out of her in fists and screams. They beat him until he was cowering, lip split, nose bleeding, begging them to stop. You ruined me, Lana gasped, standing over him. You destroyed something I can never get back. Taesung spat blood. You'll regret this. Both of you. I have connections. I'll make your lives hell. They left him there, bleeding and cursing. Lana's knuckles throbbed, but she felt nothing. Just empty. 3 weeks passed. Then 4. Lana tried to go back to normal. Attended classes. Worked her part-time job at the campus bookstore. Avoided mirrors because she couldn't stand to see herself. But her body wasn't cooperating. The nausea started in week 2. By week 4, she couldn't keep anything down. It's stress, she told Somi. Just stress. But Somi found her on the bathroom floor one morning, dry heaving into the toilet, and she knew. They both knew. The pregnancy test sat on the sink between them. 2 pink lines. Positive. No, Lana whispered. No. We'll figure this out, Somi said, but her voice wavered. There are options. It has to be his, Lana said. That man. Rio Han. There's no one else. Taesung and I never, we were waiting. She laughed bitterly. I was waiting. You don't have to do anything, Somi said firmly. This is your choice. But even as she said it, Lana's hand moved to her stomach. Something was growing inside her. Something that came from violence and darkness, yes, but something that was also part of her. Could she get rid of it? Should she? I need to tell him, Lana said finally. He should know. He threw money at you and called you a prostitute, Somi reminded her. He doesn't deserve to know anything. But if I keep this baby, he deserves to know he has a child. That's different than what he did to me. It took 3 days to work up the courage. Lana waited outside Han Enterprises, the skyscraper where Rio's company was headquartered, for 6 hours. Security kept asking her to leave. She refused. Finally, as the sun set, the glass doors opened and he emerged, surrounded by bodyguards and assistants. Mr. Han. Lana called out, stepping forward. The bodyguards moved to block her. Rio's eyes narrowed with recognition. You, he said coldly. What do you want? More money. I'm pregnant, Lana blurted out. The words hung in the air. His entourage went silent. With your child. For 3 seconds, Rio just stared at her. Then he laughed. Actually laughed, throwing his head back. Nice try, he said. But I'm infertile. Medically documented. Try the scam on someone else. I'm not lying. Lana's voice rose. She pulled out the pregnancy test from her purse, the ultrasound appointment slip. I'm 8 weeks pregnant and you're the only person who's ever. Enough. Rio's voice cut like a blade. He reached into his jacket and pulled out his wallet. Again, he threw cash at her. Bills fluttered around her feet like autumn leaves. I don't know whose baby you're carrying, but it isn't mine. Stay away from me or I'll have you arrested for harassment. He walked past her. His driver opened the car door. Before he climbed in, he looked back one more time. Find a better mark, he said. Then he was gone. Lana stood there surrounded by money and curious onlookers and the pieces of her shattered dignity. A security guard approached, asking her to clear the premises. She nodded numbly and walked away, leaving the cash on the ground. That night, Somi found her packing. "Where are you going?" Somi demanded. "Gyeongdo Coast. Your cousin Jihye said I could stay with her, remember? Work at her boutique." "You're running." "I'm surviving." Lana folded another shirt into her suitcase. "I can't stay in Seoul, Somi. Everywhere I look I see him, see Tae-sung, see what happened. I need to start over. Then I'm coming with you." "Somi, your job. I work remotely anyway. And you're not doing this alone." Somi grabbed her own suitcase. "We leave tomorrow." What they didn't know was that Tae-sung watched their taxi pull away from Somi's apartment building the next morning. He took a photo of the license plate, smiling coldly. He'd promised they'd regret crossing him. He always kept his promises. Gyeongdo Coast was beautiful. The ocean stretched endless and blue, the air tasted of salt and possibility, and Jihye's boutique was charming with its racks of handmade clothing and beachy aesthetic. Jihye, Somi's older cousin, welcomed them with open arms and no questions. "You work when you can," Jihye said, showing Lana the studio apartment above the shop. "Rest when you need to. Whatever you're running from stays in Seoul." "Deal?" "Deal," Lana whispered, grateful beyond words. The first month was peaceful. Lana worked the register, helped customers, learned to steam, and hang the delicate fabrics. Her belly started to swell. The morning sickness was brutal but manageable. She tried not to think about Seoul, about Ryo Han, about the baby growing inside her. Then Tae-sung walked through the boutique door on a Tuesday afternoon. Lana was folding sweaters when she heard his voice. Cute shop. Coastal chic. Very trendy. Her blood turned to ice. She spun around. There he was, hands in his pockets, that same charming smile on his face. He looked at her obvious baby bump, and his smile widened. "Congratulations," he said. "You're glowing." "Get out," Lana managed. "Is that any way to greet an old friend?" He walked closer. Customers glanced over, sensing tension. "I came all this way to check on you." "How did you find me?" "I have my ways." His eyes dropped to her stomach again. "Did Ryo ever believe you about the baby?" "No? That must sting." Jihye emerged from the back room, immediately reading the situation. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." "I'm just talking to my ex-girlfriend," Tae-sung said smoothly. "We have history." "You have 3 seconds before I call the police," Jihye said, phone already in her hand. Tae-sung raised his hands in mock surrender. "Fine, fine. I'll go." "But Lana." He leaned close enough that she could smell his cologne. "You ruined my face. Broke my nose. I don't forgive easily. This isn't over." He left. Lana collapsed against the counter, shaking. Jihye locked the door and flipped the close sign. "Who is that?" Jihye demanded. Before Lana could answer, another voice spoke from the boutique entrance. A voice she recognized. Cold. Commanding. That was Kim Tae-sung, mid-level drug trafficker and pimp. Ryo Han stood in the doorway, flanked by 2 bodyguards. "And I'd very much like to know why he's threatening the woman carrying my children." The world tilted. Lana grabbed the counter for support. What are you doing here?" "Children." Somi stepped forward from behind a clothing rack. "Did you say children?" "Plural." Ryo's eyes never left Lana. "I had my doctor reconsider my case. The pregnancy is medically improbable but not impossible. Then I had my people track you down. Found some interesting information." He held up a flash drive. "Video evidence of Tae-sung drugging you at that club. Selling you to the agency I used. The agency I will be destroying, by the way." "You knew," Lana whispered. "You knew I was telling the truth." "I know now." Something that might have been guilt flickered in his eyes. "I came to apologize. And to inform you that I had a private ultrasound of your medical records. You're carrying twins. Girls." The room spun. Twins. She was having twins. With this man. This cold, arrogant man who'd thrown money at her twice like she was garbage. "Get out," Lana said. "Lana." "I said get out." Her voice broke. "You humiliated me. You didn't believe me. You called me a scammer and threw money at me in the street. And now you show up with evidence and think that fixes anything." "No," Ryo said quietly. "I don't think it fixes anything. But I'm the father of your daughters and I intend to be present for them. Whether you want me to be or not. You have no rights. I have every right. Legally. Financially. Morally. He stepped closer. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. I judged you based on assumptions. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make that right. But those babies are mine too. Lana's hand went to her stomach protectively. You can't just. DNA test at birth, Rio interrupted. If they're not mine, I'll leave you alone forever. If they are, we co-parent. Legally. With a contract that protects you and them. That's my offer. And if I refuse? His jaw tightened. Then I'll see you in court. And I have significantly better lawyers. Jihei stepped between them. Everyone out of my shop. Now. This conversation can happen somewhere else. That night, in Jihei's apartment, Lana sat surrounded by papers Rio's lawyers had delivered. Custody agreements. Financial support contracts. Medical care plans. It was overwhelming. He's trying to control everything, Somi fumed, reading over her shoulder. But Lana noticed something. Every clause protected her. Gave her primary custody. Provided a trust fund for the twins that he couldn't touch. Covered all medical expenses. Required his presence only when she approved. It wasn't a takeover. It was an apology in legal terms. What if he's genuine? Lana said quietly. What if he really wants to make this right? He threw money at you, Somi reminded her. Twice. I know. But these contracts, he's giving me all the power. That's not control. That's surrender. The next day, Rio returned to the boutique. Lana met him outside. I'll agree to your terms, she said. On one condition. You stay out of my life until the babies are born. Then we do a DNA test. Then we talk about your involvement. Not before. That's 7 months away. That's my condition. Rio studied her face. I can send money. Medical care. Support staff. I don't want your money. I want space. Lana crossed her arms over her growing belly. You can be there for the birth if the DNA test confirms paternity. Until then, leave me alone. She could see him fighting with himself. Finally, he nodded. I'll respect that. But if you need anything, I won't. He left. But the next day, flowers arrived at the boutique. Lana threw them away. The day after that, a baby book on twin pregnancies appeared on her doorstep. She started to throw it away too, but found herself reading the first chapter instead. A week later, an envelope arrived. Inside was the flash drive with the video evidence of Taesung drugging her, plus a police report. Taesung had been arrested. The charges were extensive. Trafficking. Assault. Fraud. He'd be gone for years. Lana sat on her bed holding the flash drive and cried. Not for Taesung. For herself. For the vindication she desperately needed. Someone believed her. Someone had fought for her. The doorbell rang. She almost didn't answer. But when she did, Rio stood there, hands in his pockets, looking more uncertain than she'd ever seen him. I know you said to stay away, he said. But I needed to see that you got the evidence. That you know I believe you now. Why? Lana demanded. Why does it matter? Because I can't sleep, he said simply. Because every time I close my eyes I see your face in that corridor. I see you outside my building. I see how I treated you and it makes me sick. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know that I see you now. I see what was done to you. What I did to you. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. His voice cracked on the last word. Lana had never seen him show emotion. Had never imagined this cold, controlled man could break. But tears tracked down his cheeks and his hands shook, and she realized he was human after all. Broken, maybe, like her. Okay, she said softly. Okay. You can come to the next ultrasound. If you want. His eyes widened. Yes. Thank you. He left before she could change her mind. But as Lana closed the door, her hand went to her belly where the twins fluttered. Maybe, just maybe, healing was possible after all. The ultrasound appointment was tense. Rio arrived exactly on time, dressed in a simple black sweater and jeans, looking nothing like the cold businessman who'd thrown money at her. He sat in the waiting room, hands clasped, silent. Somi, who'd insisted on coming, glared at him the entire time. Lana Okoro, the technician, called. They walked into the dim room together. Lana lay back on the examination table while the technician prepared the equipment. Rio stood awkwardly by the door until Lana nodded to the chair beside her. He sat, careful not to touch her. The technician spread cold gel on Lana's belly. The ultrasound wand pressed down. Static filled the room. Then, suddenly, a heartbeat. Fast and strong. The technician moved the wand. Another heartbeat, slightly different rhythm. 2 healthy babies, the technician said with a smile. Girls like we thought. Measuring right on schedule. On the screen, 2 tiny forms curled together. Lana stared at them, tears streaming down her face. She'd seen ultrasounds before, but this felt different. More real. These were her daughters. Growing inside her. Alive and perfect despite everything. She glanced at Rio. He was staring at the screen, mouth slightly open, eyes wide and wet. As she watched, a tear slipped down his cheek. Then another. His hand moved unconsciously toward the screen, toward the image of his daughters, and stopped halfway as if he didn't have the right to touch even the image. You can hold my hand, Lana heard herself say. If you want. He looked at her, shocked. Then, slowly, carefully, he took her hand. His grip was gentle, reverent, like she was made of glass. They sat like that, watching their daughters on the screen, connected by touch and wonder and something Lana couldn't name yet. Thank you, Rio whispered. Thank you for letting me see them. After that day, things shifted. Rio started showing up, but different than before. He didn't push, didn't demand. He just appeared, offering help in quiet ways. He paid for the bigger apartment Jihei had found for them, but in a way that felt like support rather than control, putting it in Lana's name. He brought groceries, careful to get the exact brands she liked. He showed up at 2 a.m. when she called crying about ice cream cravings, drove 20 minutes to the only shop that sold the specific flavor she needed. He built cribs. 2 of them, working silently in what would become the nursery, following instructions with intense concentration. He painted the walls a soft lavender because she'd mentioned liking the color. He read baby books, asked questions about her doctor appointments, remembered which foods made her sick. Somi started to soften. He's trying, she admitted one night. I still want to punch him, but he's trying. Jihei was less convinced. Actions don't erase what he did. No, Lana agreed. But maybe they can build something new. 3 months into this new dynamic, Lana sat on the couch rubbing her belly. The twins were active today, kicking and rolling. A knock on the door. She knew it was him without checking. Come in, she called. Rio entered carrying Thai food, her current obsession. He set it on the table and noticed her rubbing her belly. Are they moving? He asked. Lana nodded. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then, making a decision, she reached for his hand and placed it on her stomach. The twins kicked immediately, as if greeting their father. Rio's face transformed. Wonder, joy, love, all cascading across his features. He dropped to his knees beside the couch, both hands on her belly now, tears streaming openly. Hello, he whispered to her stomach. Hello, my daughters. I'm your father. I'm going to love you so much. I'm going to protect you always. I promise. Lana's heart cracked open. This wasn't the cold man from the penthouse. This wasn't the businessman who'd humiliated her. This was a father, broken and raw and desperately in love with children he'd never met. Her hand covered his on her belly. They stayed like that until the twins settled, until the food got cold, until the sun set outside. Neither of them moved. Neither of them wanted to. That night, after dinner, Rio cleaned up while Lana watched. As he washed dishes, she saw him pause, hands gripping the counter. I love you, he said without turning around. I know I have no right to say that. I know you probably hate me. But I need you to know. I love you, Lana. Not because of the babies. Because of you. Your strength. Your courage. The way you protect yourself and them. The way you gave me a chance when I deserved nothing. I love you. And if you can never love me back, I understand. But I needed to say it once. Silence filled the kitchen. Lana's heart hammered. She wasn't ready for this. Wasn't ready to feel anything for him beyond complicated co-parent arrangement. The idea of loving the man who'd hurt her so deeply felt impossible. "Please leave," she whispered. He nodded without turning around. Set the dish towel down carefully. Walked to the door. Paused. "I'll always come when you call," he said. "Always." Then he was gone. For 3 days, Lana didn't call. She tried to convince herself she didn't miss him, that the apartment wasn't quieter without his presence, that she didn't look for him in doorways. But she did. She missed him. The realization terrified her. "You're falling for him," Somi said, watching her stare at her phone. "No, Lana. He hurt me, Somi. He threw money at me like I was trash. And he's spent months trying to make it right. Months showing you who he really is." Somi sat beside her. "I'm not saying forgive him. I'm not saying trust him completely. But maybe give yourself permission to feel something other than hate." That night, Lana called him. He answered on the first ring. "Lana? Are you okay? Is it the babies?" "I'm fine. We're fine." She took a breath. "I need you to know something. I don't love you. Not yet. But I don't hate you anymore either. And I think I want to try. To see if maybe someday I could feel something more. But you have to be patient. You have to let me heal at my own pace." "I will," he said immediately. "I'll wait as long as you need. Forever if necessary." "Okay," she said. "Okay." The next months passed in a blur of doctor appointments and nursery preparation and slowly building trust. Rio met her parents via video call, nervous as a teenager. Her father was stern, her mother cautious, but they saw how he looked at their daughter. How he cherished her. They gave their blessing, conditional on his continued good behavior. Jihei stopped glaring at him. Somi invited him to dinner. The twins grew bigger, more active. Lana's belly stretched impossibly large. She waddled more than walked. Rio thought she'd never been more beautiful. One evening, 8 months pregnant, Lana sat on the couch with Rio's head in her lap. His hand rested on her belly, feeling the twins move. It was domestic and peaceful and nothing like how they'd started. "Do you ever think about that night?" Lana asked quietly. "The first night?" "Every day," Rio admitted. "I wish I could change it. Wish I'd asked questions. Seen you as a person instead of a transaction." "Me too." She ran her fingers through his hair, a gesture that had become comfortable. "But if it had been different, we wouldn't have them." She touched her belly. "And I can't imagine a world without them now." "Neither can I." They sat in silence, bound by the past, reaching for the future. At 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, Lana's water broke. She called Rio first, before Somi, before anyone. He arrived in 12 minutes, breaking every speed limit. Somi met them at the hospital. The labor was long, painful, exhausting. Rio held her hand through every contraction, whispered encouragement, wiped her tears, never left her side even when she screamed at him that this was all his fault. 18 hours later, Sora arrived first, screaming her displeasure at the world. Miney followed 12 minutes later, quieter but equally perfect. 2 tiny girls with dark hair and Lana's nose and Rio's eyes. The nurse placed them both in Lana's arms. She looked down at their perfect faces and sobbed. All the pain, all the trauma, all the fear had led to this moment. To these 2 miracles. Rio stood beside the bed, tears streaming down his face. "Can I hold them?" Lana nodded. He took Sora first, cradling her like she was made of starlight. Then Miney. He held both his daughters, one in each arm, and his whole body shook with emotion. "I promise," he whispered to them, "I promise to be better than I was. To protect you. To love you and your mother for the rest of my life. You are my world. Both of you. All of you." He looked at Lana, still holding their daughters. "Thank you. Thank you for giving me this. For giving us this." Lana felt something shift inside her. Something that had been frozen since that terrible morning in his penthouse. It cracked, melted, transformed. She looked at him holding their daughters, this man who'd started as her nightmare and become something else entirely through patience and proof and genuine change. "Rio," she said softly. "Come here." He carefully returned the babies to her arms and leaned close. She kissed him. gentle, tentative, but real. When they pulled apart, his eyes were wide with wonder. "I love you," Lana whispered. "I didn't think I could. I didn't want to. But watching you with them, watching you fight for us these past months. I love you." Rio collapsed into the chair beside her bed, hands covering his face as he sobbed. Relief, joy, gratitude, all pouring out of him. Lana reached for his hand, lacing their fingers together while their daughters slept peacefully against her chest. "We're a family," she said. "A real family." "We're a family," he repeated, voice thick with emotion. The DNA test 3 days later confirmed what they already knew. Sora and Miney were his daughters. No one was surprised. The legal paperwork was signed. Co-parenting became actual parenting. The complicated relationship became simpler, warmer, something that looked surprisingly like love. Somi visited daily, bringing food and baby gifts and occasionally babysitting so Lana could sleep. She'd started dating Rio's head of security, Min-jae, a development that made everyone laugh. Jihye expanded the boutique, hired more staff, and gave Lana flexible hours so she could work from home. Taesung remained in prison. Lana didn't think about him anymore. He was a ghost, a bad chapter closed forever. 3 years passed like water. The twins grew into tiny tornadoes of energy and laughter. Sora was bold and loud, always climbing, always exploring. Miney was quieter, thoughtful, with an artist's soul. They both had Rio wrapped completely around their little fingers. Lana's boutique, a second location she'd opened in Gyeongdo Coast with Rio's investment but her own vision, thrived. She designed clothing now, African-Korean fusion pieces that magazines called groundbreaking. Her trauma had transformed into art, her pain into creation. Rio proposed on the beach where they'd first started to heal, with both twins as co-conspirators holding the ring box. Lana said yes without hesitation. They planned a small wedding for the following spring. One Saturday afternoon, Rio pulled up to the house they now shared, the twins chattering in the back seat. Lana was waiting on the porch, and when they parked, Sora and Miney exploded from the car, running toward her with shrieks of joy. "Mommy, Mommy, Daddy bought us ice cream." "Before dinner?" Lana raised an eyebrow at Rio as he approached. "They gave me the eyes," he said helplessly. "Both of them. Simultaneously. I'm only human." Lana laughed, kissing him as the twins ran circles around them. "You're hopeless. Hopelessly in love with you." He pulled her close, one arm around her waist, the other catching Miney as she launched herself at his legs. "All of you." That evening, after the twins were asleep, Lana stood in their bedroom looking at photos on the wall. Her and Rio at the hospital, exhausted and happy with newborn twins.